Welcome to the podcast daily. I'm your host, Careshmeh Dean, and today we are interviewing and visiting with the famous Nathan Osmond. He's a world-class musician, he is a podcaster, and he also does mortgages. So if you need any help in that vein, he's your man.
This is fun. Look at your own show. This is amazing.
It's pretty exciting.
Thank you for the plug. I appreciate it. Wore my new blazer for you. I heard this is the hot show to be on, so I've got to dress this up.
It is a little hot. So you're an Osmond.
I am. They tell you you're one in a million. They mean it. We make up half the state of Utah, I think.
That's right. That's
Big
right.
Family.
You guys are an icon for sure. When did you first realize that you were famous?
I remember this one particular time when this lady asked me for my autograph, and I didn't know what she meant. So I went up to Aunt Marie and I said, Marie, what's an autograph? She goes, just sign your name. And so I did. That was my first autograph.
Wow.
But I remember being on the tour buses and seeing the fans. So ever since I was about 3, I have recollection of traveling on the road with my father and uncles, the Osmonds, and of course Aunt Marie, and just seeing people scream. I just thought that was fun, you know.
Well, yeah,
I didn't think of it
fun.
as fame. I thought of it as fun. To us, that was just life, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think of it as fame. I thought of it as fun. And so at a young age, I said, that's what I want to do.
That's what you want, and you have.
We wanted to be like our father and uncles and perform, and we used to watch all the television shows, the Andy Williams shows and the reruns, and then they shut off the VCR. We went to eat lunch, and we were singing those same songs in 2-part harmony. And my parents like, did you teach them that? Like we had a natural ear for it. And so then my father started teaching a 3rd part and a 4th part, and all of a sudden we're singing 4-part barbershop harmony. Well, Eugene Jalesnik, who had a KSL television show called Talent Showcase every Sunday.
I do remember that.
Put us on, gave us the whole show. And my grandparents were on there, my parents were on there, and we just entertained Utah that Sunday. Well, People magazine heard word about this new generation of Osmonds, and so they wrote an article, which then Bob Hope opens up People magazine and reads about this new generation of Osmonds. He goes, I want those boys on my show, right? And 1986, boom, we're on the Bob Hope Christmas special, which Curb Records now sees. And they're like, well, if we make the Osmonds famous once, we can do it again. So they signed us, and that's where we got our first record deal. We had Osmond Boys was our first album. Well, actually, Magic was kind of our first self-release, but Osmond Boys was our first, self-titled album. And then we did Second Generation, which had 3 songs in the top 40 in the UK. I went to England 7 times in 1 year, and this is when I'm 15. So we traveled the world. We were on the No More Games tour with New Kids on the Block. Worked with Color Me Bad, Salt and Pepper, Naughty by Nature, Extreme, all of these big bands, PM Dawn from the 90s. And then my father, who has had MS for 38 years, since I was 10, he needed to have some work. And Jimmy, our uncle, who's an opportunist, he said, guys, how'd you like to do what you guys do best and never have to leave home? He didn't tell us we had to sell that 17,000 square foot home in Utah, move to Missouri, right?
Oh, wow.
So that's where Branson came into play.
Exactly.
So we left performing in the Tokyo Dome and Osaka Stadium, to performing at a theater in the Ozarks.
Yes.
Now, was it a career move? No, but you know what? I thank my Uncle Jimmy so much for that opportunity because it kept me performing. It kept me, introduced me to country music, and my roots in country grew out there. I even told Garth Brooks that once. I sat down with him. I said, my cousin Travis sat me down in a pickup truck, an F-150, out back of the Osmond Family Theater, and he says, now you listen to this guy. He pops in a cassette. His name's Garth. And Thunder Rolls kicked on, and that's when I became converted.
That would be the song to get you.
3:30 in the morning. Come on,
that
Garth.
would be the one.
I told him that story too, and he loved it. But I don't regret any of that. I look at my childhood as an adventure. You know?
You can't really regret your life.
No.
You have to look back and see exactly what's happened behind you, figure out what you're doing ahead of you.
Of course.
Be thankful for what you have right here.
Absolutely.
Right?
All we have is now.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
You mentioned your mission, so faith plays a pretty big part in your life.
Big part, huge.
And would you say that your parents' faith, their devotion to their faith, is what kept you grounded? Do you think that that is what really helped them understand, wow, there's some crazy stuff happening out there.
Oh,
how do I keep my kids focused on what is supposed to be good? Keep their head straight.
My parents didn't want to be stage parents, right? But like Marie's always said about her father and my grandpa, that's exactly what they were. They were there through every stage of our lives, and literally on stage. And that's the last thing my parents really wanted. They really said, my father said, I'm not just going to hand this to you.
You had a lot of great examples.
Great mentors, right?
Yes, great mentors.
Donnie.
So tell me, what was the best advice that you ever received as a youth? And from who?
Well, I got a
was
lot
it?
of great advice. One was from Uncle Donnie, who said, don't surround yourself with yes men. What's that? I said.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the best. You're the greatest. You can do
Right.
no wrong. Wrong.
Right.
I sat down with Donnie once to show him a song I was going to play in the show in Branson. And I start singing the first line of it. He goes, cut. Nathan, I didn't believe a single word you just sang. Now, is that brutal or what? Or
No,
is that just
that's honest.
honest? See, if you're flat, fix it. That's how we work in our family.
Exactly.
So don't get, my father always snap his fingers. One. You got to be one.
Exactly.
Act as one. That's how we get things done. And that's how we fix things. If you're flat, fix it, he said.
Exactly.
Right? So we did.
Well, there is a difference between being kind and being good, you know. You are, it's not kind to tell, or being good and nice and kind. It is not nice to tell someone a lie.
Yeah.
It's kind to tell the truth, and I'm really impressed with your
Absolutely.
parents for being so clear on that.
Well, Donnie corrected it. He says, you don't want to be around negative people, but you want to be
Either,
around
yeah.
people that are going to shoot straight with you, like your father, which it was
Sure.
to me. Because he said, Donnie, you're too close to it. I'm watching you from over here on stage right, and you're just spending all your time on stage left. You need to come over and perform to these girls. Get down on your knees. And so he even had a coach. Tiger Woods has a coach. Michael Jordan has a
Exactly.
coach. The greatest at what they do have coaches.
Right.
And so I'm grateful I've had some great coaches in the Osmond family to kind of show me what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
You know, and as a father who'd been in the business, as our manager, he was able to really watch out for us.
Right. So let's go back to your childhood. Let's
Yeah.
go back to little Nathan.
Ooh.
So when was your first real job?
Oh, golly. Well, I've performed my whole life. But when
Yeah.
I got off of the Joseph tour, this is after my mission, I sold internet sound. How do you sell internet sound? Isn't it free?
I don't even know what that is.
Why
What
is your
is
sound
that?
better? It's the same speaker. It was like, it was a really hard sale.
Yeah.
But my next real job was selling women's shoes at Nordstrom while I
Oh.
was going to BYU.
Okay.
And I also played the piano, too, which was a lot of fun.
So they let you play the
I got
piano.
to
So
sit
the
down,
sign that says don't
$14
touch.
an hour. Come on, baby.
So $14 an hour,
That's what I
that's
got
breaking the
paid.
minimum wage.
No.
$5 an hour,
But
mine.
get this.
$5.50 actually.
I
It's
had an
going pretty
ulcer
good.
when I was 9 years old because of my piano teacher. Irene Peary, I love you if you're watching, but watch this. I was writing theory at the age of 9, playing
Yeah.
Clementi and Bach and crossing hands and sight reading,
Right?
but it gave me an ulcer. I was on Mylanta 2 and prescribed medications for ulcers at the age of 9.
Hey, I hear you. I had a classical pianist also train me.
Yeah.
And I just remember her because I didn't practice. I remember her telling me, Careshmeh, if you don't practice, your talents will be taken. I mean,
was
and she
told
would
I've-
scare
yeah.
me like that, you know, so that I'd be like, oh,
But anyway, that was a real job.
that was a real job.
I do mortgages.
Right.
Right. I got OsmondHomeLoans.com, NMLS number 2043992, Equal Housing Lender. There we go.
He's got that.
And I do other things besides just music. I do a lot of speaking. I teach real estate,
Right.
investing. I've got a production company.
Yep,
you
you
know.
do conferences.
Yeah, conferences.
Yeah, I remember being at one of them. Yes, it was amazing.
Yes.
Well, so if you weren't a musician, though, you obviously have a bunch of other things that you do.
Yes.
But musician was the thing that you wanted to be.
Well, I saw so much joy in my father's
Yeah.
face that I said, I want that. I saw how much joy they brought to the people out in the audiences. I said, I want to do that.
Well, and
wanna
you're
bring
the performer.
smiles.
I've seen you perform. I mean,
love
you
to
break
smi-
it
But
out.
get this, I used to be shy. And you're like, no,
I
not
really
this
am
guy.
having a hard time seeing that. No,
I
don't
know.
believe
Most
you.
people think I'm lying until they watch my interview on Good Morning America at the age of 9, when Joan London singled me out of all of my brothers and my grandparents and parents. And she's like, so Nathan, do you enjoy this entertainment business? And guess who freezes on national television?
Joan.
This guy.
Oh.
And I say, yes, ma'am. And that's all I said on the whole show. She goes, oh, I like that, ma'am. You know, like she was impressed with our talents and stuff.
And your manners.
Our manners. And
You're a well-mannered little boy.
but anyway, my father said I wasn't going to finish the question, and so he jumps in and saves the interview. On the way out of that studio, my father pulled me aside, and he changed my life. And he said, son, it's a talk show. Talk. People want to hear what you have to say.
They do.
I felt embarrassed, though. I felt like I let my dad down on national
Oh,
television.
you carry such heavy
But
burdens.
at the same time, he looked at me in the eyes and said, people want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
And that that liberated me. And what a producer.
Yeah.
So he got me to come out of my shell, and
But
I'm
in
so
a positive
grateful.
way. It
Great
wasn't
way.
like he was, I mean, we hear
Yeah.
all those horror stories about the poor Jackson's father, and he was a tyrant.
Oh, you know.
Tore those kids up to the point. I mean,
My
I'm sure that
grandpa
they
was
had
very
more.
strict, too.
They probably had more than just ulcers, those
But,
boys.
yeah.
But your dad sounds like he was just, listen, I know what I need to have done, but I also know how to inspire you
Well, yeah.
to do it.
Because he'd push us in the studio. Come on, boys. Here we go. One more
Right.
take, right? Energy. Because that's
Yeah.
one thing as entertainers. If you've ever been around an entertainer, it's like, I feel for these comedians. Be funny.
All the
right?
time.
Or sing us a song, right? You're always on.
Never
They never
off.
get a chance to get off stage. So I find just be who you are on stage and off.
Right.
Then you're not on all the
Be
time.
the same all the time.
Yeah. And you
Oh,
meet
yeah.
you meet some that are. Johnny Carson was very private. He was very shy.
But his job was on.
Yep.
And when he was off his job, he was just a human being. I found
yeah.
that's very true of a lot of celebrities. They that's their job. We have to
Yeah.
understand that, you know. Just
Yeah.
because you see them every night in your living room does not mean they know who you are or even want to know who you are.
That's right.
I mean, for the real.
That's why, you know, it's good to have people like Donny Osmond as a mentor.
Right.
Because if anyone could brag about his life and what he's done, it's my uncle.
Right.
You know, he was the Justin Bieber, if not bigger than that.
Bigger.
As a kid.
I mean, especially for the span of time we're talking, people are
He's
still
one of the most
hot on
down-to-earth
Donny
guys you'll
Osmond.
ever
Yeah.
meet. And a personal mentor of mine. And he told me, Nathan, in life, you're either living in the white or the black. Here's my advice, live in the gray.
Right.
Right in the middle. Right down the middle. Balance.
Balance it.
Because I was dealing with some panic attacks when COVID shut all our business down
Right.
and everything. And I did 277 live events
What a
in
horrific
201
time.
cities just in 2019.
That's
And
horrific.
then nothing.
Yeah.
And it messed
oh,
me
we
up.
all felt it. COVID had a blanket terror over all of humanity.
Oh, yeah.
Truly, just brought everybody to their knees.
Yeah. Well, I called him and told him what I was experiencing. He started laughing. He goes, welcome to the club, buddy. I'm like, what? He says, you're having panic attacks. Not me, not Mr. Podcast Man. Achieving awesomeness now, man.
Right.
I got my own radio show that's all about positivity. You
I
can do
know
it,
how
right?
to.
Did you want to just
Tap,
come to my
tap, tap.
house and just talk about it?
Yeah.
And that's what a mentor did for me. My uncle became my safe person.
Right.
And he taught me about stuff he'd been through.
Right.
We all go through weird, crazy stuff, right, in life, and it's just a matter of surrounding yourself, not with yes men. So getting back to your question about advice, that was really important. And he also said this, don't try to make everybody happy. Because you can go crazy doing that.
Exactly.
Pleasing
you can't
everybody.
be a pleaser, and
Well,
you can't have yes men. You have to live in reality.
It's the hardest part as an Osmond. We want everyone to like you, right?
Well, I think
But they're not
everyone
going
wants to be liked. Everybody. That is a problem throughout all of the population of humanity. We want to be liked.
Yeah, and when we're not, it hurts.
Yes.
We take it personally, we internalize it, and then you start having ulcers.
Well, it sounds
And you
like
don't want
Donnie
that.
has a pretty good grip on self-love, though,
He
which
does.
he's probably tried to
But
relate
he struggled
to you.
because you got to go read his book, Life is Just What You Make It. I mean, he was sitting in a car with Michael Jackson, a little red sports car, and he's like, Donnie, your name is poison. This is Michael Jackson telling Donny Osmond his name's poison. It's like the Brady Bunch. They don't want to let you grow up. What kind of controversy can we get you into?
Oh.
Right? He's like, Michael, that's not what I want. That's not why I signed up in all this.
No.
I just want people to accept me and my music and do what I love. They used to
Right.
love him and now they hated him. Right? They would.
Right.
I mean, he went on Broadway. And he opened up and he closed the very same night. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. Little Johnny Jones goes to war. Donny Osmond. Failure. Right?
Wow.
So, get this. Talk about a mentor.
Right.
Fast forward how many years, and I'm at the premiere of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor the Dreamcoat with Andrew Lloyd Webber sitting up in the balcony.
Right.
And I watched my uncle, who had been through that, get a standing ovation
Rise up.
in the middle of a show
Exactly.
with Andrew Lloyd Webber watching.
Right.
And I cried because I know what he's been through. And look at him kick some booty.
You do.
Look at that guy. That's
Yeah.
my coach.
Get back
I can
up.
do it.
Exactly.
If I want it bad enough.
If you do.
Boy, he had to push through that pain. And I'm so grateful for the advice. My dad sat me down. I sat him down because I took him to dinner. And we were at a Chinese buffet, and he's like, Nathan. I said to him, Father, if you could go back in time and visit with your younger self, what advice would you give yourself? And he said something very sarcastic and funny and made me laugh, but then he got serious and he said, if I could go back and talk to my younger self, here's what I tell myself. It's not who you are, but who you become that ultimately matters.
The continuous evolution.
Mic drop.
Yes.
That's the best advice.
That is. So then I'm going to twist that back on you.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to your 20-year-old self?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, you're rounding up.
Stay
You're
away
heading
from the
right
Cheesecake Factory. It's delicious. We love it. I used to joke and say I'm the Osmond that didn't lose 50 pounds on Nutrisystem. But hey, Marie laughed at that one. I just say, like Donnie said, that living in the gray part, learning to love yourself, not to be, hey, look at me, but learning not to take yourself so seriously.
That's not what loving yourself is.
Yeah.
Loving yourself is not, hey, look at me. In
Yeah.
fact, once you love yourself, you don't need to do that.
Oh, yeah. Because you see people that love
You're
themselves.
just very, very clear and you're very comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You understand who you are.
Self-entitlement is just something that drives me nutty. It's one of my pet peeves, right?
Well,
Is
it's
because
a mark of some weakness. It's a big weakness.
It is. So I hope I never come off like that. I hope that, sometimes I have not lived a very normal life. And so sometimes when you share things that aren't very normal,
Right.
oftentimes you're prejudged by people. Well, look at him. Doesn't he think he's special? His grandma knew Elvis. Like,
Right.
so what? So did my dad.
Exactly.
He was just a friend.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Why does he get to complain?
Mm-hmm.
Why does he get to hurt?
Yeah.
They won't allow either.
Yeah.
The public is pretty brutal,
Oh, yeah.
but
Oh.
you are just human.
I
You
am a
are
human.
just flesh and blood.
I've been through some stuff even this year.
Yeah.
After 23 years of marriage. I'm now a single guy.
He's on
that's
the market,
hard.
girls. He's
I'm
on
not
the
saying
market.
that for
Take a
that,
look.
but
I
am.
am.
That was hard.
And available.
The hardest thing I've ever been through, right? And now with 4 sons, having to lead in a world that I've never been in.
Right.
It's
We are in
difficult.
a wacky time.
Yeah, it is.
This world right now, everybody's a little unsure. Everybody's
Mm-hmm.
unsteady because there's so much crazy.
Yeah. But I've learned that you talk about faith, God will never pitch you something you can't hit. He'll throw you a curveball every now and then.
Yes, he
But
will.
focusing is a big, important part that I struggle with sometimes. But my father coached me. He says, Nathan, life is tough, but so are you. Tough times never last, but tough people do. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to go back to your childhood one more time.
Let's
We're going
go
to have
back
a
to my childhood.
flashback. Let's have a
Have you seen my
flashback to
childhood?
Disney.
Come on, Michael Jackson.
Come on, let's see. Let's see. So I understand you were on Disney.
I was.
Well, let's talk about that.
Well-
That's very exciting. Were you on were you on Musketeer?
Well, I've been on the Mickey Mouse Club before. My brothers and I
Oh.
performed over in Germany, which is fun. That was
Of course
pretty
you
cool.
did.
And
Of course
I'm
you
a huge
did.
Disney fan. Of course, my dad knew Walt, and he performed for him, and he coached my dad, which is cool. Disney's the one that gave the
Wow.
Osmonds their first shot, even before Andy Williams.
Amazing.
To perform in the park and on the television shows. And anyways, I had the opportunity to go sing for Michael Eisner. So it was kind of fun. My dad made up this whole audition song.
Uh-huh.
So we've been on TV a little while, still we love Eisner, Disney, and you. Right? And he's like, anyways, he just wrote this whole jingle, and Michael Eisner loved it.
Just
And so Disney
ate it
came
up.
to our 17,000 square foot home and spent the day with us. Well, lo and behold, they come up with this Full House kind of sitcom looking show, right? Featuring a second generation of Osmonds, and the script was called Nathan Who.
There's a couple we know, they're really on the go. 6 boys came humming along, they really changed her song.
Well,
We never really sang in front of anybody before.
well, how am I supposed to be your manager if I don't know what you sound like?
Okay.
Well, I'm a ding-dong dad from Dumas, and he always see me do my stuff. I'm a clean-cut fella from Provo, Utah. You ought to see me strut.
You always miss that note.
I can't help it.
That's the part Dad used to sing. It's embarrassing if you do it wrong.
Oh, man, Daddy, you should be able to.
Man, it was so fun to do that. This was a great set they built in Burbank area, right, the television studios area. And we went down there, stayed at the Sheraton Universal, and just so much fun, living like the
yeah.
Hollywood dream as a kid actor, right?
Oh,
I didn't
yeah.
consider myself a great actor. This is when I was really shy.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
around that same time frame. But Disney saw something in me and said, we want to make the whole script about him. And the script is that Kevin, who by the way was in the movie Dead Poet Society, he's the kid that gets
Right.
punched out at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
He went on to do some good stuff, but he says to me in this show, there's a good chance you're adopted. Simply because I can't hit the same note. I couldn't curl my tongue like
Yeah,
this. All my
right.
brothers could do it, right? All this hereditary stuff.
Right.
Anyways, it's like, adopted, you're crazy. He says, come on, man, I've seen Annie 14 times on cable. Chances are there's Boy Scout troops smaller than your family.
True.
Odds, one of you is adopted. So
That is true.
I got to do this whole thing. It was so much fun doing this.
Mm-hmm.
But, those are the experiences that my father tried to prep me for. When he
Mm-hmm.
said, people want to hear what you have to say. I believed him. I was just being myself. I don't consider myself a great actor. I played myself in the last 2 movies. What does that say? We even shot one here in the studio, and I said to the director, I said, hey, Savannah, how do I get in the character? She's like, shut up and be yourself, like, there's some good advice.
There's some very
some
good
advice,
advice.
Savannah.
Just shut up and be yourself.
There's it.
So, wrapping this all up, where do you see, you've lived an amazing life. A very
really-
amazing life. You've had, incredible opportunities, incredible experiences,
Yeah.
met incredible, absolutely mind-blowing Michael Jackson, this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So tell me where you see yourself in the next 5 years.
I want to be able to utilize everything that I have been able to do and accomplish and learn, and I want to bless others' lives with it. I want to be able to not only help future artists with this production company, I want to be able to help, write songs for, that go and help launch new artists and careers.
Right.
I want to be able to continue my speaking, my motivational speaking around
Yes.
the world. I just hosted a big event called Achieving Awesomeness Now Summit and had 12 speakers in there. And I
was
wrapped
there.
it up. You were there.
I was there.
That's right. It was incredible. And by the way, it was so fun. We're going to keep doing that. But I named it after my podcast and my national radio show. I want to
love
keep
it.
those things going
Right.
because I even said on my first podcast episode, I said, listen, if I only get an audience of 4, and those 4 are my 4 sons, it was worth recording
I'm
this.
winning.
I'm winning.
Winning.
If I can see them become great men, that's winning.
Well, it has been such a pleasure to sit and listen to. I know you, but I know you better now. And I'm hoping that our audience also has a more insightful view of you and your life. Thank you for sharing,
Thank you.
and thank you for being on the show. Thanks, guys, for
This has been
joining
great.
us.
Thank you, guys.